Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Business with Jill Thomas. I'm your host, Jill Thomas. This show is about helping business owners create faster and more easy success in ways that are comfortable for them, that make them feel honored on their soul level, and help them gain insights and understanding of how to create a successful business more quickly and more easily than they thought possible. Today's guest, I'm so excited, is my good friend Karen, who has a last name I cannot pronounce, so I will let her say it. But Karen is a logo designer, a web designer. She also does energy work and photography. She was born in East Germany, which you might be able to catch when you hear her talk. And now she's a resident of Southern Oregon. And so welcome, Karen. Please tell us your last name because I tried to say it and it just didn't come out right. So
Oh, hi Jill.
hi, Karen. What is your last name?
My last name is Wegehenkel.
Yeah, I knew that wasn't gonna I
And
knew
so,
that wasn't gonna work if I tried to do it.
yeah,
Oh,
actually there's a my ex-husband has a really good way of saying it. So Vega is like the star system, right? Vega.
oh, okay.
Henkel is like that the German knife maker.
Oh yeah. Okay,
Put
I
those
think I
two
have one of
together,
those.
Vega, Henkel, and you're fine.
There you go. I love it. I love it. I bet you always have to spell
Yeah.
it too, don't you? Okay, so one of the things I love about you, Karen, is that you have more than one business. So we're always told a lot of times when you're told to start a business, people give you that you've got to specialize, you need to focus on one thing. But in your case, you're kind of doing one business, but you're focusing on three different areas. And I'm assuming there's probably even a fourth one in the works at some point. Tell us about that, how you came to this idea of having three different sort of lines to what you were doing.
Well, I am I have a lot of hobbies. I think I have too many hobbies actually, and some of them are just so much fun, and I want to give back. Like I mean, my idea of running a business is helping people, and that's what I'm doing it, why I'm doing it. So those three things are just three different lines of the same expression. So that it's three different expressions of the same thing. So it's really just like an art is my dharma, like art, the expression of art in some way, shape, or form is what I'm here for. And photography is one of my businesses. Also, it's rather small at the moment. So yeah, I mean, of course, that's like taking photos, creative stuff. Web design, graphic design is my other business, my biggest one. That makes most of the money. And of course, expression of art, right? And then the energy healing is another form of art. Actually, I was talking to a Vedic astrologer, like a year and a half ago or something like that. And he said, in India, it's the same thing. If you do healing arts or if you do expressive arts in any way, shape, or form, it's the same thing. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So here we go. It's the same. It's just different expressions of the same thing.
Love it. It's almost like channeling energy. You're channeling energy, and sometimes it's becoming pictures, that art. Sometimes it's becoming beautiful websites that help people get inspired about their business. And sometimes it's just energy work that you do on people. Now, with the energy work, do you see people in person or is it virtual? Or is it
It's
both?
it's virtual. Actually, I mean, I can do both, but I prefer virtual just because I have my meditation spot set up and all that. That's just easier for me. And then I can go into meditation without distractions. So what I do with the energy work is I actually do it remotely and through meditation. So it's just a form of like all kinds of tools that I have in meditation, but it has to be done in meditation. So you can probably link or liken it to a shamanic journey.
Mhm.
I think that's what most people would understand, even though I'm not a shaman. Like I don't even ever call me that because I don't have any links to either Russian or Southern American people, so I'm not a shaman. But it's the same way of doing it. Going into the inner world, solving the problem there, and coming back, and then telling my client about it. So that's really all of it. And the thing is, I can do that with animals as well, which is cool. So I've
Wow.
done a bunch of people that have problems with their animals, like with their horses or with their dogs, and they came to me, and I was able to talk to them and do the same thing. Like most animals do not want to be helped on a physical level,
Interesting. Now tell me about that. Really? I didn't know that.
um, because they're helping their owners. So that's
Okay.
the animals are
Got
usually
it.
coming into an owner's life to help them in some way, and they are happy to take on physical ailments for that. And like maybe the owner doesn't want that, and that's not a bad idea to tell the dog, cut it out. I want to take care of that myself. But most people are not aware of that. So I really like for people to come forward and say, hey, my dog has something, can you help with that? Because gives them the opportunity to take responsibility in their own hands, which I think is so important.
Interesting. That is, that's really fascinating. And I love this because I do get a lot of people who are healers and they want to do the work remotely. But they also, it's always with a healer, and it's just been my observation, maybe you've seen the same thing. It's always this, and I do this, and I also do this other thing. I do this, and and just like you said with the Vedic astrologer, great advice. I love that you have two of these, two others, this and two other things. Is there a fourth one? Or was I making that up?
Well, okay. So I have been thinking about teaching what I've learned about my horse ownership. I own a horse for 10 years. And she has taught me so much about how they want to relate instead of how they are usually related with. And sometimes in the future, there will probably be some sort of teaching there that I can share what she has shared with me and what she taught me. Also, there's lots of people out there now that are doing that, which I'm really super grateful for, because it means I don't have to split myself into a quarter again. Not necessarily.
No, I love it. I do. I think if you did that, you'd probably have a lot of business, because that is something that comes up a lot. Now, did you have a job before you created all of these businesses? Did you have a job?
Well, actually, I'm an accidental entrepreneur.
I love it.
For Amazon, during the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. It was great. It was like doing the small, when it was still small in the beginning time. So Amazon in Germany had just bought Telebuch, which was a German company that sold books online. And so I worked with the people that had started Telebuch. And we had tiny little teams, and they would all do, like, everybody was like, go, go, go. And everybody was like expanding and getting stuff done and getting things into place. And that was just like the most magical time. I just love that. I love being there, and I love that the people and the energy and the connections that we did. So it was magical. And then my husband was from here, from the US, who had come to Germany for 2 years to stay with me, and he was getting homesick. He wanted to go back, so we decided to sell everything and pack up and come over here. And so Amazon gave me the opportunity to stay on for about half a year, 6 months after I left, which was like a lifesaver for us, because it gave me some money to go ease into the living in the US. So that's when I became a freelance designer, and then that's how I started my own business. Was that accidental?
So what did you bring? Because when you have a job, there's a very different mindset between having a job and having a business. We've talked about this off air. What did you bring from your job that you think was really helpful when you started your business? Kind of what was helpful to know there?
Well, I was always customer oriented, even in working for Amazon. So I had my little customers, like I had the development team for book or for CDs or for music, and I would always go and talk to them and then do the designs, even though I had my lead, like my lead designer who would give us the overall what we had to do. But I would still connect with those people and see what they really needed, and then we did something. I had it signed off with my lead, and then gave it to people that needed it. So it was really customer oriented, that you have to be as an entrepreneur. And I always like to be independent. I mean, that the independent, actually, I am the best, my best self when I can be independent. So if I have, I have a client, I've had clients before that are just like nitpickety, and they like micromanaging, and the stuff that comes out of that is just not my best, and it's just like I get frustrated, and I get angry, and I get frustrated with the results, because it's not what it could be. So if people let me be, give me the information that they need, or that they have, that I need to create something good, to create something exceptional, then I can. And that's what I do. And every time I get a new client, I try that. Like I go into that, and I try to create the best that I can for them, to elevate their business, to make sure that they start well. Most of my clients are startups, so to give them a good starting point, that they actually have everything that they need to get out there.
So what I'm hearing you say is that it sounds like you're using your intuition a lot in your business. And so when a customer sort of steps back and says, hey, go ahead and channel whatever it wants to be and show me what the final product is, that's when you get your best work. But when the customer comes in and says it needs to be red, it needs to have lines on the backside, that's when it's less, I'm almost hearing you say that you're channeling the business itself almost like it's an entity and letting it tell it what it wants to be. And the customer has this idea, but they're not as much in tune with it as you are in some ways. Does that make sense? Would you say that's right?
Absolutely what I say. And I like the idea of that you had in your book. When I read this, that one exercise about how to connect with that entity of business, that's what I do. I'm like, oh my God, she does that too. I thought I was the only one. That's amazing. So that's what I do. Usually I go into meditation, I connect with the client, I connect with the entity of the business that they have created and see what comes up, and
thank you for bringing that up. I mean, obviously I love the plug, appreciate that. But I will, for entrepreneurs out there, when you're creating a business, you're creating something that intuitively for people like myself and like Karen, it looks like a person in some ways. It has a personality, it has wishes, it has an expression, it's part of you, but it becomes in some ways a separate thing. So you can tune into that separate thing and ask it, what do you want to be called? What do you want to look like? How does this, who are your customers going to be and how do you reach them? And I love, that's one of the things I love about what you do, Karen, is that you kind of tap into that and figure out, okay, what colors do they need to see, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the entity is so funny. When you said you see it as a baby, I don't.
Almost like a child. Yeah, I almost see it like almost like a person sometimes, yeah, or a baby.
See it as a grown-up person usually, and sometimes it's not even a person that you would see as a human. Like sometimes it's like a creature that might come from another planet or something. Like it's not a creature from necessarily born from the earth. Depends on what kind of business it is, of course. Like if it's really channeled business, like many entrepreneurs have. I mean, they really have this desire on their heart, which I think is a channeled business. And then the entity is not necessarily a child. So
I love it. No, I love it. And for those of you who are hearing this and thinking, oh, that just sounds weird. It's not. It's just, you make something, it becomes something outside of yourself. That's what happens. It becomes, because especially because it's in your mind first, and then it becomes a thing on paper, in my case, a book, right? It becomes on paper with bindings and all of that. So it becomes something separate from you. So thank you for talking about that, because that's really, really important. I think as soon as people start to see it as something outside of themselves, then they can get a better handle on it.
Yeah. And I mean, in the end, it's the customer to decide, is this going to stay or is it going to go? I mean, they are the ones that pay for it. So if your business is not a good idea, if it's not viable, then it's not going to survive.
That's a really good point. So talk about that a little bit, because there's something I wanted to ask you. So if you could go back in time to Karen when she first started her business, because we've all done things and we're like, oh man, that was stupid, right? What would you have said? What advice would you give Karen, the new entrepreneur, that, you like, if you knew then what you know now, what would you have told her?
Get a mentor right away, so that they can tell you, or they can tell you about the mistakes that they made, so you don't have to make them. So that's, I mean, but I mean, I read books like every week or every month, or at least twice a month. I have a new book in my on my phone that I listen to, about business or something, about improving myself, improving the business, changing. I think that you have to stay flexible. You have to change with the times. You have to change to see what works. Just throw it out there as an experiment. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So you try something else. You try something else. You try something else. It's like, it's not a straight line. It's more like a like a zigzag. And
no, that's great. That's actually true. I love the way you just said that, because you do need to experiment sometimes, and you need to not be afraid to experiment.
You can't be. And that the thing is, a business is an intimate expression of your own self and of your own personality. And I did a lot of work on myself too, because it's just part of it. You have to work on yourself if you want to create something bigger than you, like all the fears that get in the way of not being enough, and not like not being good enough for this or whatever, like all those things, they have to be solved in some way, or you have to face them at least, so you can get over them and create something better, like growing with it, like I'm not saying that my business is necessarily the biggest one or the most successful out there, but I have grown so much just by doing it,
I love
getting up
it.
every day and see, what needs to be done today. Is that anything that needs priorities? Is there anything, what can I do today so tomorrow is better? So, tomorrow is growing, or how can I put a seed down now, um, that'll grow into something big in 5 years. I mean, that's something that I have to think about too every day. Most
So
people don't.
let's talk about the person who's listening to you and thinking, I want to do what Karen does. They've got a desk, they're in a cubicle, maybe it's a soul-sucking job that pays just a little bit more than their rent. What advice would you have that person who wants to transition into something like what you do?
But actually having a job is great, because then you don't have to have the business carry all the weight. So if you just do something like just an hour a day, or half hour, 5 minutes, it doesn't matter. Just something small and something that really fills up your heart, that really is down, like really here. And you just do it like 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes a day, every day. You wouldn't believe how far you can get in a year. Just 15 minutes a day. So just start slow. I mean, that's what I would have done if I wasn't thrown into it like that. But
Yeah,
that's
it
how
sounds like you were dropped in the deep end of the pool, but that's
yeah,
okay.
I did. So, but that's what I did with my side businesses, like the photography and the energy work. It's just on the side and see how it goes. And like sometimes I put some energy in it, and most of the times I don't, unfortunately. And then there comes a time and like, okay, I need to work on my energy business just because I love it so much, like, and I love helping that, and I get so much in return, like the people are so grateful. The animals are grateful too, and that's just so nice. I mean,
That's
I love
interesting because I never would have thought of you're doing this animal channeling, and I know I'm not expressing it the way probably you would, but let's just call it that because that's the words that make sense to me. But let's say you're channeling the animals, they're giving you information, so you're getting gratitude from both sides. Whereas most people, when they have a customer, they're just getting gratitude from one side. Tell me how that must feel. That must be really cool.
Well, I'm not always getting the gratitude from the animals. Sometimes they say, just fuck
Oh,
off. I don't want to talk to you.
I love that.
I had a donkey. Was it last? No, it was 2 years ago. A donkey's like, nope, I'm not gonna talk to you. No,
A
go.
donkey? Okay.
He was abused. I
Oh,
can't blame the donkey, but he's like, okay, I don't want to talk to you. So I said, sorry, I didn't get anything from the donkey, but I had a horse too to talk with, so I had something to give to or to share with the owner.
but see, I love even that though, because as a psychic who does occasionally say to a customer, hey, I'm just not I'm not able to tune into you. I would so much appreciate that versus, yeah, he said he wants this, he wants that, he wants just making something up, right? Because the customers are really not going to know necessarily, but you do.
But the thing is, not saying anything says something too.
It's
You know,
true. Hmm.
it's a message in itself. So that's what I told the customer, that this is like what the message was, that him not talking to me means, that he's not ready, or maybe he's really pulled back, or maybe there's something in his life that he's not ready to share. And this was like, oh my god, that makes so much sense. It's what I got back from her, which is like,
Wow.
okay, well, good. I'm like, what do I do with this customer, and I don't have anything to tell her, and she's like, oh, that makes so much sense. That was so fun.
Oh no, I really love that. I so much love that. So one thing I want to talk about, because I just kind of, with this show, I wanted to hit I want to say people's resistance to starting a business, because I really think it is the age of the entrepreneur. I think you're going to be much more financially stable if you can at least create a little side hustle. What would you say to the person who says, I don't have a degree in business, I don't know what to do? Do you talk to me about your education for this?
I don't have a degree in business.
I don't
I
either,
mean,
by the way.
who does? Most of the entrepreneurs don't. And it's mostly it is learning by doing. But I tell you, get a good book that tells you what to avoid, what pitfalls to avoid, and or get a mentor that can tell you in person the same thing. Just to get started is not that hard. I mean, it's just you find some customers, you fill out some paperwork, and you're good to go, right? I mean, how hard is that?
I love that. And that's, you bring up a really good point, because a lot of people have it in their head that this is something really hard, particularly if they come from a long line of family members who've only had jobs. But then when, in my case, both of my parents at some point had businesses. So I got to see, it's good as, go get a fictitious business license, cost you about $20. Maybe you have to register as an LLC in Oregon. That's really, really easy, right?
So I think the mindset is important. So if you want to go through life and just have your paycheck at the end of the month, and I would love to get a paycheck by the end of the month, just don't get me wrong. Anyway, and not think about it, and just go to do your 9 to 5 thing, and then just being done, and then save up for your vacations and live for that. That's like everybody's choice, right? Being entrepreneur means you don't have a paycheck. You have all freedom that you can have. You have to set your own life, so you have to have discipline to sit down on a computer or wherever you want to sit down and serve the customer in some way. That's the discipline that you need as a entrepreneur. If you don't have that, you're probably better off having a 9 to 5 job.
And there's nothing wrong with the job thing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But it sounds like you and a lot of other people want something more.
Right. So what I would love, and I'm still working on that, is to collaborate with some people on that. Like maybe find an SEO person who wants to work with me. Maybe find a marketing person or a copywriter who wants to work with me, and just grow it a little bit bigger this way. And be able to offer more, or even in the energy work field. Maybe with another animal communicator or something, just to cross-pollinate. Contaminate sounds bad.
No, that's a good word. It's a great word.
Pollinate with each other to see where we can elevate each other, where we can help the customer even more. Like how can we make our offerings even better this way? And I think that's, if you want to have a paycheck like this, I think if you pool 2 or 3 people together, you might be even more. You could make it even bigger and even better and easier. Like maybe the other 2 people pull their weight this month when you're sick or something. You want to stay home sick, or you have to take care of yourself. So you get at least something out of that. I think that would not be a bad idea.
I love that. That's great advice. Absolutely. A little hard to find good collaboration with people that get along. It can be difficult to find where everybody kind of has to have their lane. And some people's personalities are always going to gel better with others than others.
It's like getting married. That would be,
Yeah.
you really, really, really have to be very discerning on who you're choosing for this kind of stuff. Yeah. It's like getting married with 2 or 3 people. Good luck with that.
Yeah. So for somebody starting off in a business like yours, when I say business like yours, you actually have 3 of them. So what would you say that the most difficult thing that they need to be aware of? If there's a pitfall that if you could say, hey, watch for the landmine, it's over here, it's in this area, what would that look like to somebody potentially interested in your type of work?
I don't know any landmines, but what helped me a lot during the first several years. I had a, what they call in some business, golden goose. Somebody would constantly channel me work. So she was a programmer, so she was really good with this kind of stuff, and she would channel me the design work, and that was amazing. That was like we worked together 17 years, and I almost had a constant flow of projects coming in, and a constant flow of money coming in this way, and that was great. So I think that what I had to learn in the beginning was to send out, to get organized in the money compartment, and send bills every month, so that I would get paid once a month, that I can actually pay my bills as well. So what I used to do in the beginning, I would have like a project, like a web design project, bigger, like 2-3 months maybe, and I would be paid in the end. That's it. Like I have one payment in the end, one lump. And I would just crawl through the first 2 months and like, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? And then I get a lump sum, like the feast of famine kind of thing. And then be good with this money and not completely spend it all, all of a sudden, because you have backed up so much debt by this point that you have to just spend it all at once. And so that was hard. So once I go to the month by month by month, every on the last day of the month, I send my bills out, and then I get paid, hopefully, 14 days later. That has helped a lot. And that would
I can see that even being good for the customer too, because as a customer who may be buying a website, like I'm making up a number here, I don't know how much they cost. My husband is a programmer, he built me one for free. But anyway, so let's say as a customer, I get a $5,000 bill for a website. If I had been paying a little bit all along, it would have been easier than to try and come up with a five large, right?
exactly. Yeah.
I could see that being really helpful. So what I'm hearing you saying too is it learning and disciplining yourself with money management is a big key. This is very good advice.
And that's, I mean, everybody gets stuck on that in some place. I think, especially entrepreneurs, especially in your field, that have the stigma about abundance. Like that we all have in some way. When you're living in the society that we're living in, we have stigma.
Especially, well, I mean, you and I kind of do a lot of the same things when it comes to the healing part. We get stuck on, spirit gave us this gift, right? It's a gift from spirit. Are we allowed to charge for it? Or is this ministry? Well, spirit gave you everything, right? It gave you fingers. It gave you the ability to get ideas for your design. Spirit does not want you to be poor and living in your Honda. Spirit doesn't want that. It wants you to have a nice car, a nice house, a nice situation, a nice place that you can invite customers if you want to.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that's something that I had to work on as well. Like I had a lot. I've done so much work on the abundance and on accepting money as a part of that job, as a part of my offerings, because that's what keeps me going, right? And if you can see it as that, as just an exchange medium, it's just like an energy exchange. I give you a website, you give me a certain amount of money so I can make a living. I think
that is a very good way of putting it, because it is energy, right?
Right, and that's the way it should be. Like, I mean, don't even get me started on the money system. It's totally corrupt. But if you can just use it as a medium of exchange, there is nothing attached to it. It's neutral, like everything else in the universe.
There's one thing a little off subject that I want to talk about, but we talked about it off air, and I think it's important because you're from East Germany. You have a different perspective on the news media than we do, and we don't have to get into it in great depth. But you said something that I would love for you to tell people about how we in this country tend to believe the things we see on TV. But tell me what your perspective is from an East German perspective,
okay.
if you feel comfortable sharing that.
Oh, I'm totally comfortable sharing. I mean, I've lived through, I'm living through the second revolution in my life, and that's just crazy. And the first one, I was 17 when it happened, when the wall came down, and it was like, I mean, I'm gonna get to to answer your question, and then it was exhilarating for me. It was exhilarating. It was like amazing. Like the whole world all of a sudden was from this kind of tiny little thing. It's just like opened up this huge world. That I was all of a sudden able to deal with, or had to deal with. But I was so happy about it. And then I talked to my older sister, and she had a totally different experience about it, which is like, wow. For her it was hard because of a job, because of children, everything. But anyway, what was the question?
Oh, you had talked about how the difference in the point of view, perception of what mainstream media is.
Oh my God. Well, okay. So in East Germany, everybody knew that whatever we saw on TV, we heard on the radio was bullshit. We said, because it was all propaganda. Everybody knew. It's just like so obvious. It's just like obviously propaganda. East Germany is the best, and everybody else is crap, right? It's like that's what they told us. And now I come over here and I see the same thing on TV, on the radio, in the newspapers. Like, what the heck is going on? So but the problem is, in East Germany, people knew it. Everybody knew about it. We make fun of it. Like that was, well, we had to make fun of it behind closed doors, not in front of it.
No, but I love your perspective, because I as a business owner, and you and I are both in that same position, you're seeing that there's stuff going on in the economy that we're hearing the opposite messaging on TV, and we're saying, wait, but that's not what it looks like on the ground.
It's government propaganda. I mean, that's one of the most insidious things that they have nowadays, or tools that nowadays people have, or that they use, like the government use strategically to get their population into a certain, to push them into a certain area, whatever the area is. And that's like, as soon as the media folds in this way, freedom is gone. And what we need to realize is that our freedom has been lost, at least 5 years ago, but it definitely with the pandemic, with the start of the pandemic. And that's, I mean, I don't want to be controversial or anything, but that's
No,
just
and my point with this is that, as an entrepreneur, when you're feeling as though, business is down and you're hearing, well, everything's rosy, like, why? Then we can tend to start to think, well, it's me, right? Instead of looking at the world and saying, okay, the world is a little bit different than maybe what we're hearing. How do we react and respond to that? So I would just say, as an entrepreneur, that's the message I wanted Karen to sort of express is that you can't don't believe everything you hear. You're going to need to use more of your own intuition. Would you agree?
For sure. And that's like, I mean, my bullshit meter is like going this right all the time. And I see the media, especially the mainstream media, is like, attention, this is not true, bullshit meter.
I love
anyway,
it. But moving on from that, because it is an important meaning, we don't have to. I don't want to be all negative here and scare people, but
the cool thing is with time of call it a recession or whatever you want to call it, it really is a shift. With this time, there's a lot of opportunity as well. And that's what we need to find. We need to find opportunity. We need to see where we can tweak or even turn around and like do 180 with your business if you have to, and see how you can serve people this way. Because so many people now, they don't know what's going on. They don't know where they are going to be in 5 years. They are disillusioned. They are sad. They are angry. They are scared, and they need our help, especially our help as energy healers. That's what we can do right now. We can offer them ways to get rid of that fear, or to accept the fear as part of life, and just get over it, in some way, or at least find ways to work with it or live with it.
I love that. That's really a beautiful and powerful message, because what I'm also hearing you saying is that as a business owner, you need to be flexible.
For sure. I mean, always, it doesn't matter about the recession. Okay, good. I mean, if it's doing well, if the economy is doing well, it's just like an easy, cushy job, right? Everybody has an easy, cushy job. So, but with an easy, cushy job, you don't grow. So right now is a great growth opportunity. So just grow, do it.
Now, let's talk about your healing energy work, because you mentioned something about, this is opportunity to get past the fear. With your energy work processes, do you help people get past the fears? We talked about the animals a lot, but I didn't talk about the two-legged people you work with.
Of course, I mean, fear is the one thing that always comes up. Always, fear is just part of our life, and the way that like the mainstream media is working, they use fear. They use fear strategically against the people, and if you can overcome that fear, you're no longer in that cycle that they can influence. And that is, I think, that's the most important thing. If we can get out of that cycle, if enough of us can get out of that, then the government can do whatever they want, and it doesn't matter.
I love it. No, I love that, though, because isn't that true for just about anything? If you can get past that fear, right, you can do your public speaking, you can, get your messages out, which in your case, Karen, you use a lot of, let's talk about that. You use a lot of sacred geometry in your designs. Let's talk about that. You can get that sacred geometry out there and have people see logos and imagery that make them feel something happy and positive that's separate from some of the negative imagery that we're seeing, particularly right at this moment. Is that correct? Or tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's I actually created a video this last weekend about just a tiny one. It's like 2 minutes or something, 2.5 minutes long, about sacred geometry, and I think I might be able to release it. I'm a little bit shy still, putting myself up there on video, but I'm getting there. So yes, I mean, so yeah, so okay, where do I start with the yantra? So like a yantra, an Indian power drawing or painting is a visual form of a mantra, and that's what I'm trying to do with the logos that have symbolism, that have sacred geometry in there, just to create like a power spot for the business. So like it's like an anchor point for the business, that the business can grow from, and it also has a positive energy to it, so that whatever comes, like gets drawn to it energetically, like a magnet. So that's what I'm
Oh,
trying
wow. So that's,
to
I love what you're saying. I never thought of, I'm just thinking, I've just got a piece of sacred geometry on my test. So, there's an example of sacred geometry if you don't know what we're talking about. But what you're saying is that the logo itself tends to, because you've created something that is energetically positive, powerful, it starts to draw to you customers, the right type of customers. Would that be correct? Or how do you do?
not just that, but
Not
also
just that,
that
tell me.
it just expresses itself
Okay.
energetically. So it can also draw experiences or events, this kind of thing. So that's what my intention is with that. And when I create those things, I always do like for the highest good of all, like that's always my anchor point, for the highest good of all.
Love it.
And that's what it has to be. So it cannot be corrupted. It cannot be co-opted by the not so positive energies. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Wow. Do you tell customers you're doing that, or is it just kind of like, oh, the logo is really pretty, I don't know why?
Well, I'm getting there. So that's one thing I learned, that I actually have to tell people what I'm doing and not just doing it and then hoping that they like it. Yeah, I'm getting there. And
I think
not,
people are starting to waken up more to the idea,
so yeah. Because
especially
I
the
think
way you put it, is like it being a power center, instead of just this pretty thing that identifies that business.
yeah, but then power makes people scared. So people are the most scared that people are of their own power. And
It's true.
so if that if if that might make them scared, who knows? Depends on the person, of course. If they've done their work, then they're probably okay with it. But if not, it might be hard for them. But
Yes,
that's
you bring up a good point. Lots of people have not done their own work. And is that some advice that you would give to a business owner to work on themselves?
oh, absolutely, all the time. That should be part of your daily life, daily, hopefully, but or at least once a week or once a month, to work on yourself, or just, it doesn't have to be long. Like just look at what bothers you, especially, like there's always going to be clients that challenge you in some way. So look at where the challenge bothers you, and see where you can find that peace in yourself, uh, that is behind that, or what the root causes of that. That's what I.
You and I can talk all day, and frankly, we have, because we're friends. Is there any, I want to make sure I get anything that you really want people to know that you think is important that I haven't asked you about. Share anything like that.
But I think we've talked about it before, but be flexible as an entrepreneur. Be flexible, be positive, see the best in people, just because every person helps. Even if they're the most shitty customers, they will help you, because they will make you concentrate on what is really true to you and what is most important to you. And yeah, that's my advice.
I love it. That's really good. So we're going to put the links to your website, and if you get brave and put that video up, we'll put the link to the website in the description here. But tell people how they can find you, how they can reach you.
Okay, so by Helios Designs is my main website. It's my business, my graphic design business. But if they want to see them all, they go to wegehenkel.com, WEGEHENKEL.com. And that just has like three pictures, and it just goes to three different websites, which are my three different.
And that link will be in the description, because if you're like me and there's no way you could get that last name that was very beautiful, but there's no way you could get that last name right, then that will be in the description. So I will say, having been to that website, I love the way she's done it. I love the way you've done it, Karen. You put these three little packages on the same platform, and then the person can say, and that also too, that's a great advice for someone who's got more than one business, because they can look and say, oh, I love her website design, but she also does photography. Oh, she also does energy work.
I know, and I've done. Sorry, if I can interrupt. There's been times when I've had all of it in one website, but it just didn't feel right. So that's why I made three different websites again, just because there are three entirely different clients. And I think they'll be served better if I have three different pieces
No,
of
and
it.
I do. I like that though, because you've got landing page that says, I offer these other services as well. If only one of them resonates with you, here's the link, go to that. But now it's not hiding part of it. It's, I also do this, you know?
Yep. Yeah, good.
I love
Thank
that. Okay, so Karen, you're awesome. Thank you so much for playing. I'm so glad that all the wisdom and insights that you shared with people. I'm excited for you guys creating new businesses for yourself. I'm excited to see people get out of the rat race as T.R. Becker, the just over broke business of having a job. But I also do like what you said, Karen, about enjoying that job and letting it pay the rent while you create the next thing. I think that's very good advice for anyone. So thank you so much for playing along. I hope you guys got something out of this, and I'm excited to see. I do firmly believe this is the age of an entrepreneur. So I'm excited to see what everyone comes up with. I want you to be excited about owning a business. I want you to be excited about creating a new business and doing it in a way that honors your soul, but in a way that is very successful. So thank you so much for everyone for joining, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.